Hey, well, let's see. It's May the 4th, 11:12. I'd brag, but it's my birthday. 74 years old today. My gracious, where have all the years gone? And I got quite a few of my friends on Facebook. Of course, they sent cordialities, and I wrote on there that if I live this long again, I'll be 148. Going for it. Why not? You know, when you're a young person, time doesn't matter as much. I used to have a theory. That I operated on. When I got into my teens, I thought, well, when you're 20, if you live twice that long, you're 40. Everybody lives to 40. Yeah, it worked. When you're 30, everybody lives to 60, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty good deal. When you're 40, 80, possibility. Odds are in today's world with the medical care, we get pretty good, 80. But then you hit 50. And all of a sudden, double 50 is 100. Ooh, don't believe we're going to make 100. And so forth and so on, to the point where now, if I live as long as I have already, it'd be 148 years. Well, I'm going for it. I don't know if I'll make it or not, but I'm going for it. Mowed the yard today. Did a pretty good job today. Do say so. This bloody chair is squeaking again tonight. Maybe if I lean forward like this, it won't squeak. Anyway, mowed. Took a couple hours. Tired when I got finished. I guess when you're 74 and you mow a couple of acres, you can be tired. It's reasonable to be tired, which I was. Tomorrow, Tiana and myself and Brian Cooter are going to load up. We're going to go to West and try to get a first-hand look, and probably I'll take some videos of what went on down there. He went down today, and he said you would not believe it. He says it's just unbelievable, the damage that was incurred down there when that fertilizer plant blew up. Don't know if how many of you folks watch YouTube. If you watch my stuff, generally speaking, you watch YouTube. Well, there's a dwarf, weirdo, troublemaker. I'm sure you've seen it if you've been watching YouTube. It shows the plant on fire. And then, of course, he slows down the video, and there's just a big belch of flame off to the left side of the screen. And then, of course, the plant goes up, boom, and he says, this is a government-launched missile coming in. Well, he's a dwarf. I mean, what would the government gain? I mean, in any, what would they gain? Would this give them a reason to come take their guns? Oh, Lord Almighty, don't let them take my guns. Anyway, I looked at it, and I'm going to give you my opinion of what that is. The wind was blowing out of the south. And obviously, these folks must have been the ones that took the video must have been setting off to the west, because the flames and the smoke, this is during the fire stages before the blast, was just blowing. It just went up just a little ways, and then it was just blowing flat to the ground off to the north. Later in the day, a norther came in, cold front. But at this time, the winds were out of the south, 30, 40 miles an hour, blowing like crazy. You know, and I'm sure you've all noticed this. If you've ever sat around a campfire and you really got that puppy working good, you got lots of wood on it, you got a nice big flame, every now and then there'll be this rush of fire that will just disconnect from the primary fire. It'll be up there, sometimes several feet above the rest of the flames. And what it is of course, the air. The fire is superheating the air, and the oxygen in the air above it, kind of blows, and the dust particles and whatever's up there, lights up, and you've got flames, that are up in the air. They'll be there a little while, and then they'll dissipate. Well, you got this warehouse full of ammonium nitrate on fire with a 40-mile-an-hour wind out of the south, blowing the flames. Well, according to the way you'll see it, it'd be in that direction, but to me it's this direction, blowing the flames off to the north. And there is, you see, all of a sudden there's just this burst of flame, same color. You can tell it's the same stuff, it's the same accelerant. It's the ammonium nitrate. I'm assuming that the flames weren't consuming it all. It would burn up, and the heat would drive some of it up in the air. It would go with the smoke and waft off to the north. Of course, the heat would go up with it and waft off to the north too. And as in the case when you have a campfire and all of a sudden there's just flames, that are totally independent from the primary fire. Off to the north of this, just actually on the north end of the building, there was this puff of fire. I'm sure the atmosphere combined with the ammonium nitrate that was probably in it, it just woof, it went, And when it did, that was what caused the main blast. Then the whole thing just went up, but there was no missile. It was just a accelerant heat combination that made this burst of flame off to the side. And the guy that said that the government shot a missile, he's a nutcase. Another nutcase. Let me see if I've got his name. I know I wrote it down. Yeah. The National Rifle Association has voted him in a new president. Jim Porter is his name. Well, old Jimbo made a speech yesterday, I believe, up in New York. And in this speech, amongst other things, he declared that the Civil War was a war of northern aggression. Says us Southern boys, that's the way we do it. I'm a Southern boy. I mean, I'm from New York, but I've been down here 50 years, so I think that makes me a Southern boy. War of northern aggression. If I remember correctly, there was a fort, I think it was in Charleston Harbor, which is in the South, Fort Sumter. And the Rebs, after they decided they were going to secede, they started firing on Fort Sumter. That sounds aggressive to me. I mean, the Union didn't do a blessed thing until they were attacked by the Southerners. So he's full of beans. I don't know where they came up with this nutcase, but the National Rifle Society is really searching out some strange cats. I'm assuming that the majority of members of the National Rifle Society must be from south of the Mason-Dixon line. To think like that, they have to be. What else? Let me see if I got anything else. I've got a story I want to tell. Okay. I'll get into my story. Now, you recall in the last tape, I told you that I was a window clerk for 37 years. I had various positions, but I either worked the window or more or less I didn't supervise. That's not the correct term for what I did, but I was a window technician 6 level for 15 years. But once upon a time when I was a window tech, or a window clerk, just a guy out there on the phone, we had a fella come in. Don't remember his first name. Remember, he was tall and slender. He was, how do I say it, of color. Waded through the line. He had a Rottweiler dog that came with him. Every time he came, we used to see him about once a month. And he had a chain that he brought the dog in on. He would unchain the dog out in the box station vestibule. That's the front part of the post office. Leave the dog on. The dog was very well mannered. Never barked at anybody. He sat there and waited on his master. Well, anyway, this one particular time, Mr. Hall came in and he wanted his check. Hadn't gotten it. Welfare check. Well, they usually came as a certified letter if we got them. So we went on our trek back. I didn't, but there was a window next to me that was waiting on him. And they went and they looked and they looked and they went through the certifieds and they pulled them all down, hundreds of them. No letter for Mr. Hall. So, got the supervisor. Her name was Connie Walters. Nice lady. She was supposed to come up. And of course, you could tell he was irritated. Needed the money. So she came up and she did have a demeanor about her sometimes. I found kind of rather condescending, but sometimes it worked on the male customers, kind of sweet little sugar lump, we're going to fix it all up, and that kind of thing. Well, she was up there trying to calm him down. And in Mr. Hall's case, it didn't seem to work. The more she talked to him, the more agitated he got. And all of a sudden, Mr. Hall, remember I said he had this chain that he kept that Rottweiler dog on. Had about this much of that puppy. He had it wrapped around his hand. There was about this much of it that was loose. Mr. Hall says, I want my expletive deleted check. And he took that chain and banged it down on the counter. Chain went right across the counter, just flat, and it left a bunch of dents in the counter, just like he took a ball-peen hammer and went. It really jacked up the counter. Now, Miss Walters, needs to say, at this juncture, I never saw a woman that could fly, but she did a completely spontaneous backward jump about 6 feet. There was a parcel bin behind us that had a wall divider. It was about this high. And her hindside and her back was against that before you could say, anything. Boy, that chain came down, bang! And she's back, eyes open. Of course, I'm standing here looking. And we thought, well, that's probably going to be the end of it. Mr. Hall stood there a moment. I'm going to get some here. Stood there a moment. And all of a sudden, his eyes kind of rolled back in his head. He leaned back. He had big old long arms. I remember he reached forward and he got a hold of the counter on our side of the counter and started to come over. And as he did, he had a big belt buckle on, and the belt buckle caught on his side. So it tipped him up. And he's coming over the counter, head down, with his feet, or his hands, going down to the floor. He's kind of doing a push-up down there. His feet are stuck up in the air. And I was 30-something, thought I was invincible. And I had a thing like this. This is a stapler. This puppy's heavy. This is steel. And I reached over and I got my stapler and I leaned over, and of course he was over the counter with his feet up in the air and his arms on the floor, and I got him by the scruff of the neck, and I reached down and I tapped him on the back of the head with this thing. And then I started telling him in some language that never should be used at the post office. Ever, ever, ever. That he needed to get his back over that counter, or I was going to knock the brains in his head right out of his ear with this thing. It's heavy. I mean, he might have just tapped him, you know. I mean, he knew he was tapped. And he biggered me. And I was praying inside that that little whack on the head and threats would make him want to go back over the counter. Sure enough, I never took my head off his neck. He pushed himself up and he got his hands on the counter, and he pushed himself back over and got his feet down. I let him go. I'm going, oh, thank you, Lord. And he sprinted for the door. I can remember that this was before the day of cell phones. And of course the lobby was going absolutely berserk. I mean, they were out of their minds. There was one person out there had the precursor to a cell phone. It was like a valise. It had a regular telephone head, you know, with the talk speaker thing on it. And that was a portable phone. Boy, they were dialing 911. Took the cops 20 minutes to get there, but, you know, it scattering. And the dog had started barking at people out in the lobby. Anyway, he got out there and he snapped his dog up and he left. And one of the things that happened when this was going on, there were two other guys on the counter. One gentleman down at this direction, he was setting the meter, and another gentleman up this direction waiting on a customer. While all this is going on, this craziness is going on, these two guys, just nothing. I remember when that chain hit the counter. Of course, the chain hit the counter, I looked, which put my line of sight down towards the guy that was doing the meter. And I remember when that chain hit the counter, he flinched like that, you know. But he never changed. He just kept on making the entries in that book. And of course, the guy on the other end, nothing. Well, it's over. The guy's gone, you know. My blood pressure's about 300 over 240. And I told my fellow workers, I said, if that ever happens again, I expect more than moral support. Never did happen again, but this puppy will get their attention. This thing weighs, I'm guessing 5 pounds. I mean, it's steel. It'll get your attention. Anyway, I went down, and me and Miss Walters went down and pressed charges on Mr. Hall. I don't know whatever came of it. You know, he probably skipped town or something. Because what he did, of course, you accost a federal worker in a post office like that, and you get 5 years in a big house. And I remember the next day, there was a woman from Plains Finance. I knew her, can't think of her name now. She came to my window, you know. She said, Richard, you should have heard yourself. The language. I said, well, it just didn't seem like shucky darn was the way, what it's supposed to be. I mean, just, the occasion called for some pretty stout language, and I gave it to him. So anyway, that was it. I climbed to a counter at my window. Well, not at my window, one beside me. And I launched into stripped off, put on my Superman outfit, and went after him. I did ask some of the higher ups what had happened if I'd have whacked him across the head and hurt him. And they said, well, we probably fired you. I said, well, hell, he was coming, excuse my language, he was coming over the counter to hurt us. I mean, what do you expect? But post office, I guess you're just supposed to cut and run. Anyway, that's the story. I come over the counter, I whacked him with my steel paper stapler, and it was a pretty exciting day. Now, can't think of much else. Let me see, what else? Boy, I had a couple of things I can't think of. Fiddly dee. Well, I'll sign off. I've probably been long enough while I got up here. Can't see it. Usually this thing tells me how long I have been talking. Okay, yeah, that's enough. Okay, see you in the morning, Brian, Crystal. Hope you enjoyed it. My sons Carl and Kyle. Love you both. Tracy. Hope you liked that one. Old Dick Heights and Raider. Top of the day down there. Ike. Once again, I hope skaters ain't getting you. I imagine you're on the road. Richard Stenna, I'll call you here in a couple of days. We'll fight some more. Glenn, Daryl Mackey, Tyler, and all my other friends that watch this. Appreciate my time. And I'll get back on here next few days, week. I'll have another tale. I've gotten kind of into the a lot of things happened to me in 37 years. And some of them are pretty good. So I'm going to start sitting down a list of them and try to include one in, every one of these so that everyone will be a little bit different. Anyway, you guys have a fine one. Here's my little buddy.